So today we're going to be talking about identifying graduate fellowships. One of the things that I try to do in partnership with Mary Lou and with the Grad College is to get the word out about some graduate fellowships, and this is one of our main ways of doing that this fall. You want to hit the next slide?
Yep.
So when you are applying for funding, you will see funding given a variety of different titles. If it is considered a grant, it is investing in the research as opposed to the individual doing the research. They're looking for particular, but the individual doing the research is quite relevant. When you see the term fellowship in general, they are investing in the individual. And when you see scholarship, again, that will be something that is investing in the individual. A good example of fellowship would be the National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship. That is a fellowship that is really investing in you. If you actually change your project a bit, when you get to graduate school or transfer graduate institutions, the fellowship goes with you because it is about them seeing your potential as a future researcher rather than being invested in the particular research that you are doing. Scholarship, you might see a little bit more commonly at the undergraduate level, a little bit less at the graduate level. But to be honest, people, especially with fellowship and scholarship, mix these terms around, and you'll even see grant mixed in sometimes. So you don't want to ever assume that whenever you see grant, it means it's only the research and not the individual, and that's true for the others as well. Next slide. So when you are looking for scholarships, one of the things that you want to do is to think about who is going to be most interested in what you are researching, who has an incentive to want to fund this kind of work. In some cases, that's going to be professional societies, people that are interested in seeing developments of new research and bringing new people into the profession. In some cases, there may be honor societies. I frequently get asked about, I was invited to join this honor society. Is it worth it? In fact, just this week, we learned that one of our students a graduate student who was inducted into the Phi Kappa Phi Honor Society has been given a $1,000 Love of Learning scholarship. So, and she wouldn't have been able to apply for that if she hadn't been in the Phi Kappa Phi Honor Society. So honor societies can be a source of scholarships. Government agencies, certainly the National Science Foundation, National Institutes of Health, the State Department, a variety of agencies out there are interested in promoting certain types of research or promoting people going into research generally. And so they will have some scholarships and fellowships available. Nonprofits that are focused on perhaps an issue or a cause that is related to your research may also have funding available. There are also groups out there that are focused on addressing underrepresentation, and those groups may have fellowships available. A couple of examples I can think of that would fund graduate students would be Hispanic Scholarship Fund, the Congressional Black Caucus. There are a range of different organizations out there that can support underrepresented students, and also major companies. This is more common in certain fields than others. A lot of times companies will give their money to nonprofits to get the same outcome, but there are some corporations that will create scholarships, and that's particularly true in the tech sector. You'll find scholarships created by Google, by Adobe, by Microsoft, and others. And so for those, particularly in the tech sector, looking at some of those familiar names may lead you to some scholarships. Next slide.
Oops, sorry. There you go.
Okay. So a couple of places that you can look, or one place that you can start, is by looking at my website, which is the Office of Nationally Competitive Scholarships. We have a set of some of the more common awards there, and we also have a Twitter feed. I will encourage you to follow us on Twitter even more than I will encourage you to look at our websites. In the scholarship and fellowship world, putting together a strong website, it takes a lot of work. And so many of us kind of gravitate to some other websites that we think are strong, where somebody else has the resources to do all of the work. But on Twitter, we do try to regularly put out information about awards with upcoming deadlines. So next slide. Other places that you can search. Funding Connection and Pivot, and Mary Lou is going to talk about those a little bit later. By the way, I routinely do pivot searches with students, and I'm happy to guide you through that if you want to set up an appointment with me eventually. Your departmental listserv, bulletin boards around campus, websites, all of these are places. We try to make a point of retweeting things on our listserv when we see them tweeted in other places, but you kind of have to keep your eyes open, both online and when you're literally walking around campus to see what might be available. And also there are some professional societies that will put together aggregate lists of relevant scholarships and fellowships. I remember a couple of years ago, I looking at either a math or a statistics professional association that had done a really great job of compiling scholarships for that field. And so definitely when you're looking out there, kind of look again at people who have a vested interest in people in your field being successful in the academic world, and they may have done some of the work for you by compiling a list. Next slide. So clusters that you may want to inspect when it comes to scholarships: STEM, research at government labs, study and research abroad, underrepresented groups, dissertation grants, experiential funding, and the arts and humanities. Definitely there are different groups funding STEM than fund the arts and humanities, and we're going to go into this in a little bit more detail. Next slide. So in STEM, some of the scholarships that K-State students have had some success with include the Eisenhower Transportation Fellowship, iBuild for students who may be in architecture or related fields, Department of Justice Graduate Research Fellowship in STEM. There's also a Department of Justice other fellowship, which is not STEM related. The Hertz Fellowship for the physical sciences generally, very well-funded fellowship that will give you multiple years of funding in graduate study. National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship Program, the NDSEG, which is somewhat similar to the NDSEG, except they are looking for people whose research particularly has a connection with defense in some way, and the Defense Department. That doesn't mean it is all weaponry necessarily. It can be other things that the various military departments might have an interest in. The SMART Fellowship is a fellowship given out by the DoD, the Department of Defense, which actually will require you, guarantee you or require you to work for the Department of Defense when you have finished your graduate degree. And the Quad Fellowship is kind of a new one out there on the horizon. This is a good one for early graduate students. They're really looking to identify talented young people in various fields in STEM. Quad is a reference to 4 countries that are involved in the Quad, and that is Australia, the United States, Japan, and why am I blanking on that 4th one? I know Australia, US, Japan, India is the, I believe, the 4th one. And this has only been around for about 2 years. It's also kind of falls out of the typical STEM timeline. Most STEM fellowships, including most of the ones above, have fall deadlines. And then you find out in the spring if you have one, and if you did, you get the money for the following year. Quad actually has the summer deadline. And so that's just something to keep in mind. Next slide. The Eisenhower Transportation Fellowship. a little bit of detail here. The Eisenhower has a different deadline this year, and I have to say I'm not 100% sure about that one. Next
Yeah,
slide.
It
Oh,
came
yeah,
out
go ahead.
it came out later this year than it usually
Yeah,
does.
yeah. NDSEG usually has a deadline at the beginning of November. You get 3 years of funding from them, $3,400 a month. This usually equals to around $40,000 a year, which is a little bit more generous than some of the other scholarships out there. You do have to be a U.S. citizen to apply for this one. Next one. Research at government labs. This can be just a life-changing opportunity for people who are interested in careers in STEM, and there are people who make their entire careers working at government labs. So you can check out the announcements on USA.gov where all government jobs are advertised, and you may find short-term internship type work, but you can also find permanent positions here. And yeah, do you have something you wanted to add to that, Mary Lou?
Yeah, no, I think I was supposed to start, but I can do the next three.
Oh, okay, sorry, no, you go ahead. Sorry, you're right.
Yep,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was my fault. But anyways,
Yep.
so what I'm gonna do is give you a couple of examples of what Beth was just talking about. There's a special program in DOE called the Science Graduate Student Research Program. And you can pursue part of your graduate thesis at a DOE lab and one of the Office of Sciences. And the only thing that you have to do is you may need to make sure that your research is going to align with the areas that this office is interested in. And you can see that they're listed on the slide. Now, there are other offices in DOE, like the Office of Renewable Energy and Fossil Fuels, and I know there are a number of others, and they may very easily have some of their own fellowship programs. But as Beth said, you need to, in those cases, you may need to go look because they don't necessarily advertise it, or is not as well known as this particular one. And this one, actually, there are 2 chances per year to apply for it. It's May and November, and I think this year, I think it's due the middle of the month. The announcement just came out for it. See, and then it is $3,000 per month, and you can go from 3 to 12 months. All right, now NIH also has a graduate research program. It allows you to spend time on the NIH campus in DC. They have a lot of labs there. I know several people, students that have gone, and it's a really great experience. Now this one, you can be an international student or U.S. citizen. The citizenship isn't quite as strict as some of the other ones, and the stipend is quite good, from 36 to 43,000. The one thing though is that you've got to identify an NIH researcher that's willing to host you. So you're going to have to do a little bit of background research to maybe find that person, and also look at the different institutes that are going to be on that campus to see which one is the best fit for you. All right. Now this one I kind of added. It's sort of I call it a bonus program because it's really not a pre-doctoral program. It's a postdoctoral, but you can usually do it like right after you get your PhD. And there are opportunities that are listed on this site at all the different U.S. labs, and they'll indicate the types of research that they're looking for. And now as you've seen between DOE and NIH, that there are some differences in citizenship restrictions among the different labs. So if you find a lab in this list there's something that you're interested in, make sure to look at the citizenship restrictions. But they tip these associates programs usually last a year, or they're renewable up to 3 years. And the cool thing about this program is that you can submit 4 times per year, because oftentimes many of the other ones you can just do it once. But anyways, and there's the website that you can go to find out more about this program. But again, this is one that you'd want to plan for right after you graduate if you're interested in finding work at a national laboratory. Okay, I think this one's yours.
Yes, yes. And one thing I think also, did we mention the NIH F Series awards? I don't know. That's
No, I haven't done that.
yes.
So go
And
ahead.
it just, and the reason I thought about mentioning that is we had a winner of one of
Wow.
those last year in kinesiology. And I just think it's really exciting when that happens at K-State. And I don't think we see that a lot. And I think that just kind of remembering, and the F Series awards are for researchers in the biomedical sciences, and they cover a broad range of biomedical fields, and they are attainable. Study and research abroad is also, a wonderful opportunity that there are lots of awards that can support. The Fulbright U.S. Student Grant, something I work with, and so the earliest students can apply as graduating seniors, but then you can apply at any point during graduate school and up until you obtain your PhD, and then you would apply for the Fulbright Scholar Grant after that. And Fulbright can send you abroad to do research in basically any country where we have diplomatic relations. The Boren Fellowship also sends people abroad, but it's really geared a lot more towards places where there are critical languages that the U.S. government wants us to study, and you have to, as part of an agreement, if you win a Boren Fellowship, you come back and you work in a paid capacity for the U.S. government for at least 1 year to sort of pay that back. They are hoping that talented young Americans will consider work in government after trying out, and will stay after their 1 year, and many of them do. But it's not for everyone. And this is very language intensive. If you apply for Boren, you are studying language at least 20 hours a week on a Boren Fellowship. The Pearson is a great scholarship that you can get information from through our graduate college. It is for graduate students going abroad, and it's a Board of Regents scholarship. And the Critical Language Scholarship is also an intensive language experience, but only for 8 weeks over the summer in about 12 critical languages, including languages like Russian, Persian, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Indonesian. And there are other awards which are specific to one country, such as the DAAD for Germany, and you can apply for research funding to the DAAD, and you can also apply for even to pursue a master's degree in Germany. The DAAD, I mean, Germany for anyone is a pretty generous country when it comes to research. So you can find a way to go to Germany if your research can take you there. DAAD is a great organization to consider. The American Scandinavian Foundation provides research funding for just about any kind of project in Scandinavia. Think Swiss provides funds for research experiences in Switzerland as well. Next slide. So Fulbright U.S. Student Program, they give about 2,000 awards. With these awards, you can either go and teach English abroad for a year, you can go and do a 1-year master's degree, or you can go abroad and do research. You do not have to be enrolled when you are applying. I can work with current students, graduating seniors or graduate students, and also with our alumni. And when you compete, you are just competing against other applicants to the same country. And Fulbright is very transparent about their competition statistics. And so if you're ever curious about how competitive it would be, it's quite easy to find that out. And I'm happy to walk people through that process. If you are doing a research project with Fulbright, you will need to have identified a host in that country who will kind of sort of guarantee that you will get the access that you need to carry out your research while you are there. And then you have a letter from that host that is put in with your application in October of every year. And the Fulbright deadline is always October of every year. Next slide. And some scholarships that focus on underrepresented groups. The AAUW offers a variety of different support for women and for women in a variety of different areas. There is an award for women who are underrepresented in their field, and they specify which fields those are. There's also one for international women. We had a K-State graduate student who won that last year. Hispanic Scholarship Funding, I mentioned that one earlier. They fund both at the undergraduate and graduate level. The Soros Fellowship for New Americans, which is for people whose parents were immigrants or who are immigrants themselves, or asylees or DACA. There is some flexibility in there. The Tillman is a great scholarship for veterans, and for, I believe, spouses of veterans as well are eligible. And the Point Foundation is a great graduate scholarship for students who are active in the LGBTQ movement. So it is not simply for people who are LGBTQ. There is a requirement that you've been active in the community in some way. Next slide. And already mentioned this a little bit. Can go to the next slide.
Sure.
Yeah. And dissertation grants. So dissertation grants are usually they are designed to help you with the research part of your dissertation, though in some cases they may be focused a little bit more on the writing part. Phi Kappa Phi offers a dissertation grant to students, and we had a Phi Kappa Phi winner last year. Actually, we're doing very well with Phi Kappa Phi these days. And the National Science Foundation, in addition to supporting all fields in what we traditionally think of as STEM, also offers doctoral dissertation research improvement grants in the social sciences. So this includes anthropology, psychology, a history of science, political science, sociology. If there's a social science topic that you're interested in, it may be, and they are more concerned with what the focus of your research is rather than the area in which you're getting your doctoral degree. So it may depend a little bit on kind of how you're approaching your topic. That's going to define whether you are eligible for this. The NSF Doctoral Dissertation Research Improvement Grant, or the DDRIG, is quite labor intensive. You are submitting multi-page description of your work. You need a budget. You will most likely be working with Mary Lou's office or to try to put together one of these applications, and you want to start it well in advance. The AAW American Fellowship is another one that can fund dissertation research. The Newcomb Doctoral Dissertation Fellowship is for students who are doing research in areas that are related to religion, philosophy, sort of humanities areas. And the Institute for Humane Studies tends to focus on economics-based projects and support projects, particularly those that lean more libertarian. So again, these can be with the exception of Phi Kappa Phi, they tend to be pretty, and AAUW, they tend to be pretty focused on individual disciplines. Next slide. And it's a little bit about the Phi Kappa Phi. It's $10,000 annually. You have to be a Phi Kappa Phi member and have met all your dissertation requirements by the November deadline. And yes, the Love of Learning and the Graduate Research Awards are also available to students. I have to say Phi Kappa Phi is one of those organizations that if you're a graduate student, it kind of keeps on giving. So it's not a bad investment if you are eligible. Next slide.
This one's a little bit more about the NSF Doctoral Dissertation Research Program that Beth was talking about. These used to be pretty prevalent across NSF, across all the directorates, but in the last few years, NSF has kind of concentrated them in the Directorate for Social Behavior and Economics research, like Beth had said. And there is a listing of the ones that do have, have specific ones of these awards. You can usually get up to about $25,000 in direct cost over a year. And really what it does is it covers the cost of research, not your time, but cost to the research itself, like travel to the sites, publication cost, equipment, things like that. And the whole idea behind them is they wanted NSF instituted these to help improve the research that graduate students were doing. Now, the thing is that this one really doesn't have a citizenship restriction, but you only have to be enrolled in it at a U.S. institution. So foreign students are eligible for this. And there's one of this link goes to one of the programs that has one of these programs. There you go, Beth.
Okay. As far as experiential funding, now these are opportunities that are, if you win funding, you're winning funding for a specific opportunity. So the AAS Science and Technology Fellowships would send you to Washington, D.C., where you would learn about STEM policy. The Presidential Management Fellowships are, and I have to say, I'm less familiar with these, but these are also related to DC internships. Smithsonian fellowships could give you the opportunity to do research with any branch of the Smithsonian. And the Emerson and Leland Hunger Fellowships, one of these is domestic, the other one international in focus, and they give you the opportunity to do work focused on hunger issues throughout the year. And they fund you for a year. The Scoville Peace Fellowships are, I believe, also Washington, D.C. focused and give you the chance to work with a nonprofit on peace-related issues. And CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, gives you the chance to do, now I don't want to misstate this one. I think that you get the chance to work with the CDC, but I'm not 100% sure on this one.
There it is.
Ah, there we go. 2 years working for the CDC in a variety of different fields. Yes, so they have shorter term and longer term. So this is a little bit like NIH because they also have kind of similar internship opportunities, and deadlines vary according to the program.
Next slide.
Yes.
Okay. This is my slide. Well, Beth and I added this section because there's kind of the conventional wisdom that there really isn't any money for research in the arts and humanities. And that's not necessarily true. There's a lot less, but there is funding there. You just need to know how to look. And Beth kind of started into how to do this looking at the beginning of this talk. But in terms of arts and humanities, most of the money for this comes from libraries, museums, discipline groups, foundations. And these are primarily focused on supporting your dissertation research. Usually you'll get some travel money and then a stipend to spend a month to a year, depending upon the place that is offering the scholarship, or the fellowship. But the thing to remember is that your research has to relate to the holdings or the mission of the group. So when you start looking at this, make sure that you do a good job of looking at their websites and understanding what their mission is. And like, for example, for museums or libraries, what their collections cover. Now, the one thing is that, with some of the ones, like in the STEM, awards may be 100 awards or so, but, with arts and humanities, with these individual groups, it's usually 1 to 4 or whatever. But again, you can find money if you look for it. So I'm going to talk about a few examples. The Graham Foundation, with this foundation, the focus is on architecture. And so their fellowship, their dissertation fellowship, has that as its focus, but it's broad in terms of the range of topics that it can cover. And you can see this right in here. And there are 2 different types of awards. They actually will give you some money to do research. And then once you're to the point where you have all your research done, they will actually, there's another award that is for the writing stage. And the website for this programs there. Beth touched on these briefly. There are Smithsonian fellowships, and effectively you can do independent studies in any one of the Smithsonian's 19 units. You would have to go to their website and figure out which one, is applicable to you. But the nice thing about this is that they do have some in the arts, and there are ones in humanities. So again, you need to do your homework and look up what might be applicable to you. But you can see, you can do 10 weeks to a year, and the stipends are fairly healthy. But again, your research has to be in the areas listed by the Smithsonian. And there are other organizations like the Smithsonian that have similar types of opportunities, like the National Gallery of Art, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and the Art Institute of Chicago. And all those are hot links. And then the one at the bottom here, this one is the one for the Smithsonian. And we will send out these, I just hadn't said this before, but we will send out the PowerPoint after the session, so that you can go back to it and go to some of these websites that we have listed on the PowerPoint. Okay, now this one's really kind of a cool place. It's the Winter Thur Museum, Garden, and Library. So you have three things kind of rolled into one. They have both short and long-term funding, and their focus is American material culture, and also the intellectual history, the artistic and cultural and social history from colonial times to the 20th century. So if your research somehow fits into this would be a good area to look at. Again, they do have both short and long-term funding. That's the stipend per month. Now, there are a lot of other libraries like this. This is a listing of some of the more well-known libraries. For example, like the Folger Library, if your area is Shakespeare, that's an area that they specialize in. Each of them has their own specialty. But again, there's and those are all hot links as well. And then there are some societies that have longer term fellowships. There's one from the School of Advanced Research, and you can see what the particulars are for that. And then also the American Council of Learned Societies has a dissertation competition that's very similar. But again, there is funding in arts and humanities. You just have to do a little bit more work in finding them. Okay, now Beth did a really good job at the beginning talking about a whole lot of different ways of looking for funding opportunities. I'm going to talk in detail about two. I hope I can skip around, get back to where we are. But anyways, at K-State, the Office of the Vice President for Research, we publish a weekly bulletin called the Research Weekly that has a lot of information about research on campus. And also it's geared to try to help faculty and researchers find funding and be successful in, let's see if this is going to work out. It is. Okay, this is what the Research Weekly looks like. It comes out every Wednesday, and what's really nice about it is that it okay. Let's do this again. Can't get my go. Well, anyways, you saw that. I think I'm going to be able to do this because I can't get my. What?
I could talk a little bit about Pivot if you want.
No, I can do it. I just wanted to go to the website. But anyways, if you go to the Research Weekly, there's a section in it that's called the Funding Connection. And it has a listing of all the funding opportunities that have come out the last week. in particular, there's a student section. If you looked at the top of that, at the top of the page that I showed you, the one of the copy that came out, the funding connection is right at the very top, and the student section, there's a link over to the left that you can use to get to that portion of the funding connection, and it does list funding opportunities that are specific to students. Now, Pivot, Beth has talked about this. It's one of the major databases for funding opportunities that is a commercially available database. And fortunately, K-State does subscribe to this, and because of that, anyone who works at K-State or is a student at K-State has access to it. And the thing that's really nice about it is that it has opportunities from all over the world, not just the United States. And there's they say that they have about $132 billion worth of funding available in all different areas. And it includes government agencies, libraries, nonprofits, and some foundations. That it's one of the areas where I look very carefully for, opportunities, particularly in the arts and humanities and social sciences, but the STEM is well represented as well. Now, what you can do, what's really nice about this is that you can set up queries for your particular area of research that you're interested in. And what'll happen is that if you save them, then it will provide weekly notifications of things that have come out each week, so that you can keep up to date on what is available for funding in your area. So the key thing is, there, it's going to work. Yeah, there we go. Okay.
One plug I'd like to make for Pivot also is that I think it's a really great place for international students to look, because a lot of times I think databases that are created by universities unintentionally, I think, often cater towards the common ones, the NSF and these ones that require U.S. citizenship. And Pivot is really great. You can actually eliminate all those ones by putting in your citizenship, and it will only give you things that you're eligible for. So
yes, that's right. And well, I'll show you that in a second. This double screen that I'm not used to using, it's just driving me crazy here. So I can't get my cursor back over to the other screen. But anyways, let's see. What the thing to do here is to let's see. This is the search section, and I just can't keep it. Oh, let's see. I know what I'm doing. Stop my screen. This is really bad. Because I can't stop the screen sharing. What's that? Can you? Yeah, I can't get my cursor back over to my computer. It's on the wrong screen, and there we are. I'm back to that. Okay, we're back to the funding opportunities, where to find them. But you saw what Pivot looks like. If you thing is that you need to set up your own account in there, and what you do is you go up to the right hand corner, and let's see if I finally got it back. All right, sorry about that. Thank you, Sakti. So anyways, to set up a account, you go up to this corner, and the thing I want to show you all about it is that you have two options, and the way that you want to do it is to use your email address, because for some reason K-State does not show up on with the login credentials. But it's just do that, and if you go down, you just sign in, and then if you look at, it'll tell you the affiliation as K-State there. And the reason that it's there is because we do have a subscription. But anyways, now what I want to do now is I want to go to the funding again, and just a real quick, I want you to look at the advanced search, and you can see this is a you can put in your keywords, and then down here you can do the filtering like Beth was talking about. And there's a citizenship filter right here, and you can put in whatever citizenship that you want, and it will filter the funding opportunities. So let's see. Oh, and the other thing is across is or, and going down is and. So let's see what I get with this. So this is what comes up. It'll provide you a list of opportunities that somehow are related to that particular the keywords that you put in. And click on that, it will take you to a summary, and then this will actually take you to the opportunity. So anyways, it's a nice tool, and again, you can either talk to Beth or me to help if you want some further advice relative to using it.
I want to add one tip in there, which is when you do the advanced search, you want to make sure, I mean, the great thing about Pivot is it has so many awards, and the challenging thing about Pivot is it has so many awards.
Yes.
And so you can go in there, and I think they now have something, they changed it to, is it level or career level or something like that, and you can put in that you are a graduate student, or you can put in that you are an early career person, and then that way you because otherwise you might find things that are for a department to apply for, or you know, a seasoned faculty member to apply for. And so you want to give it as much information about you as possible, and those filters that were underneath where Mary Lou put the keywords in, those will help you kind of fine tune it so you can get it a little more tailored to you. But even when I do that for students routinely, we still get several hundred hits. So you'll likely find quite a few things that might be an option for you.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to add is that don't just do one search, you know, a search, because I found that Pivot is kind of wonky in some respects because it will pull up strange things. And so, and it may not always get all aspects of what your research is about. So think about different ways of getting at your research area, and just, you know, have those standard searches. And I've found in putting together the funding connection that I get a much better coverage of what's out there if I have several different search queries. So anyways, keep that in mind. Let's see, let's go back to the slideshow. Okay, so okay, so we've done that. And so now, usually we have the Writing Center, a representative from there that helps us with this, but they were unable to attend today. So I'm going to try to do hopefully a fairly good job of explaining. They are a group that is done by the English department, and they suggest, as you might expect, that you should share your writing with as many people as will read it, and as early as possible, because again, you don't want to wait until the last minute. But the key thing about them is they want you to visit the center. It's part of the English department, and the cool thing for you is that graduate students actually can get an hour a week of helping to work on your writing. In particular, they will help you with with a proposal. They are great. I worked with them on a number of presentations, and they just have really very pragmatic and straightforward approach to help you how to learn how to write, and also to improve the writing that you do. So I strongly recommend them, and that's their website. If they're at the website, there's actually a place where you can set up an appointment. And I strongly recommend that you consider potentially using. And I think that is our last one. Yes, it is. Stop sharing my screen while I still have my. Oh, there's me stop sharing. Okay, there we go. Well, I still have my cursor available. So are there any questions?
Before we get into questions, I wanted to add that in addition to the Writing Center offering help to graduate students, I'm also happy
That's
to
right.
read through essays and give feedback to graduate students and undergrads.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, her office is it's very helpful. In fact, she just finished doing several in-depth sessions on the NSF's GRFP fellowship program. So. Okay. No questions. All right. Well, again, if you need help with Pivot, Beth and I are both available. And we will send out this PowerPoint for all of you so that you have access to all the links, so that if you want to look at a particular opportunity in more depth, you're able to do that. So if there are no more questions, we'll say goodbye for the afternoon, and I very much appreciate you all spending some time with us. And I hope you learned something, and it will be helpful to your pursuit of your degree. Thank you. Bye-bye.